All right, YouTube, we are live. I think it says we're live. Yeah, we are live. Awesome. All right, welcome one, welcome all for today's update. I'm going to keep this one a bit shorter just because we've got our Q3 review meeting here as a team taking place shortly. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the drivers that came through overnight that Georgie kind of covered. Majority of what came through this morning, at least of key importance, was the NFP report, NFP payroll numbers. What's going on, Chris? NFP numbers were the ones that came in. Labor data came through, and it was a bit of a mixed report. Average hourly earnings a month over month came in at 0.4% versus 0.3%. So a bit of a beat on that front. Unemployment rate came in at 3.7 versus 3.7 expected, so right in line with forecast. The miss was with NFP, with the actual non-farm employment change, which came in at 130,000 versus 163,000. So again, the barriers, it was kind of a low obstacle to beat, and it still missed despite coming in slightly higher for hourly earnings increase. They inched up 0.1%, and unemployment rate kind of stayed the same as previous at 3.7%. On the agenda for the remainder of today's session, we have Mr. Powell speaking at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is going to be, it's saying 12:30 here, but oh, that was September 6th. My apologies. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at the wrong month. Let me get back to October here. Why is this in September? There we go. All right. Now let's get back to where we came in. So my apologies for that one, guys. I completely messed that one up. We are actually, um, we had average hourly earnings, which came in at a miss. All right, average hourly earnings, the month over month figure came in at 0.0% versus 0.3% expected. So average hourly earnings dropped. You also had non-farm employment. 145,000 was the forecast, which was a very low number to begin with, and it came in at 136,000, the actual number. So again, a miss on that front, a miss on average hourly earnings, and surprise, surprise, the only thing that came in at a beat was unemployment rate, 3.5% versus 3.7%, and it's kind of ironic that you see White House advisor, economic advisor Kudlow going on record on a Bloomberg interview saying U.S. employment rate is a phenomenal achievement, but he's kind of discounting or not really putting into complete picture all the numbers that came through. He's just focusing on unemployment rate, which, yeah, that one did come in a little bit lower than expected, but the key thing here is that non-farm missed, and so did average hourly earnings. So if you're just to look at employment, yeah, that's pretty good. But the fact that non-farms missed and average hourly earnings came in less than expected, that's a bit more of a bearish signal, and likely going to lead to, let's see if the FOMC Fed Watch increased here based on this report. Let's take a quick gander. So yesterday, if you guys will remember, we were at around 90%, 99%. Um, All right, so that has actually dropped 77.5%. That was based on 11 Central Time. So 12, yeah, so that's about 10 minutes ago. It dropped down to 77.5. All right, guys. So that's what we had on those numbers. And again, I'm looking at the right figures this time. We do have Jay Powell speaking at 2 p.m. Eastern time today, and we've got a slew of Fed speakers coming in really into the U.S. close. We have Fed Chair Powell speaking at 2 p.m. We have FOMC member Brainerd speaking at 2:10 p.m. We got FOMC member George speaking at 3:45 p.m. And we also have FOMC member Quarles speaking at 4 p.m. Eastern time. The only one that's indicated as a potential high impact event is Fed Chair Powell's speech at 2 p.m. Obviously, because Powell is the chair of the Fed. However, the remaining members here are also voting members. So Lael Brainerd is also a voting member. So we'll have to keep a close eye on what he says. Esther George, also a voting member. So keep a close eye on that. And also, Federal Reserve Governor Randall Quarles is also a voting member. So all of the FOMC members that are speaking in today's session are voting members, so it will be important to keep an eye on what they do speak on. However, I think most eyes will be focused on Fed Chair Powell here at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so as it stands, markets are looking pretty, rather, SPOs are looking pretty bullish. Nice little bit off the open, and we haven't really come back to retest that. We've just been printing fresh highs. And crude oil, kind of a little bit choppier than the S&P 500 on today's session. We did chop around the open a little bit, and it looks like we're finally starting to press towards session lows on this US Open, still above overnight lows from Globex and the previous day close. So we'll look to see if crude can target those leading into its pit session close at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so that's what I got for you guys with regards to news. Keep a close eye on 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Fed Powell speaking. Again, if you guys don't have a new squawk, that will be super important to have, especially going into 2 p.m. into the close for today's session. Like I said, we do have 4 Fed speakers, so a new squawk will be important because I can imagine something might be squawked coming into the close here. Right, that's what we got on that front. We've covered all the news, so I can close these guys up, close this one up, and I can switch this display over to my actual charts. All right, so on my charts, what I am seeing, first and foremost, quote board, very light volume for crude oil, 379,000 contracts. Daily change percentage is up 0.34%. Previous day close was 52.35. We are currently trading the 52.64s, so we are up marginally on the session. However, if you look at the pit open at 53.18, we are down from that. So yes, we are above previous day's close, but we are below the US session open. So again, that's showing you guys there's a little bit of chop going on in today's market. Not much directional follow through. However, at this point in time, we have seen the open kind of hold as resistance, and we are kind of pressing back down under the VWAPs. And so now we're kind of looking for this thing to target previous day close and that overnight low to the downside, so long as we remain below the VWAPs. All right, on S&P 500, again, volume's looking pretty okay, 944,000 contracts. We had pretty good volume coming into the NFP report this morning, slightly before 8:30 a.m. I think we were trading around 270 to 290,000 contracts before the NFP report hit. So that was pretty good. And you know, it's not 1 million or 1.5 million, but it is still a pretty good number here. Crude, as you guys are seeing, making that press towards previous day close, really aggressive move here. And yeah, that's basically all that I see here. So I am anticipating a little bit more volatility coming into the S&P 500 into the latter half of this session. Crude oil, not really seeing too much. More driven by technicals than anything else. We do have the Baker Hughes rig count comes out at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that could give us a little bit of volatility. But outside of that, I'm not really anticipating too much out of this market. All right, unless we flush below these overnight lows, we can start making a concerted effort towards those 51.60s and maybe down below into those S1s. So that's what the quote board showed us. Let's take a look at the pivos, the pivot charts here. So again, you'll notice what I mentioned yesterday. Fresh lows, we get a rotation. We got a fresh low, we got the rotation. And I think I mentioned yesterday 53s or so, right around the $53 level. That will likely be some resistance since that was around the previous high. We did kind of break above that, so a slight shift in structure, but we didn't really see any follow through on the break of that. We kind of broke it, retraced, tried it again, failed, and now we're pressing back down towards the pivot. So like I said, first target here is 52.07 to the downside, and then ultimately we'll see if we can press back down to those previous lows around the 51.24s. That's what the pivot chart is showing me here. These are the 1 hour charts, so 1 hour bar charts, and you know, 1 hour trend remains bearish. Like I said, we did pop our heads above here, but we kind of failed to continue with any gusto. So that's got me thinking we'll get another move to at least test these 51.60s down into these 51.20s. And if it fails here and breaks back above that, that might be our shift out of this bear trend back to the upside. Until that happens, bears are in control of this guy. All right, so taking a look on the actual chart, surprise, surprise, look where we just came down into as I was speaking, right into that overnight low, right into the previous day close. What I am seeing here is, despite we did come down, the volume started to kind of pick up on this little rotation here. You're not seeing that much volume kicking in, and so now the fact that we had support here, there was a lot of support around that level. We did hold it. We've broken through it. Now on the rotations up, that previous day high should hold as resistance. Crude today, I've noticed that it's not really respecting the aggressive levels. It's respecting the more conservative levels. So more conservative level would be a rotation back up into this VWAP, into these 5280s or so to look to short it back down. More aggressive would be your previous day high here, right around 5260s. It starts rotating around kind of like this, comes up in there, rotates around. You can look to sell it for fresh lows. Your other option is just to, instead of trying to anticipate where the lower high is going to be and trying to short it, you can just wait for this thing to break below that low, rotate back up, find some resistance, and then look to press it back down. That's what we got here on crude for you guys. And S&P 500. Starting to look like the bear trend is getting a little bit tired. Like I said yesterday, we did have that fake out below the range lows, which had some sellers come through, or rather get some sellers trapped as we were coming up into the top of the range. A couple of buyers came through, I'm sure, yesterday near the top as we rotated down here. But as you're seeing, we've kind of broken back above that, held it as support. Now we're continuing higher. So it looks to me, at least short term on this 1 hour trend or 1 hour chart, that the bull, or rather the bear side, is starting to get a little bit tired, and that we might be making that transition back to the top side. And we are at R1 right now. We did break above it. We had a key level here, these 2920s. You guys can see it kind of held a support there, held as resistance here before that breakout. So I think now that we've broken out above that level, we might get a little rotation back down to the 20s for continuation back up to these 2950s or so. All right, so 2950s ultimate target for end of the day. If I take a look at the chart, you'll see why I kind of like those. Actually, 20s look a little bit deep looking at this chart. What I am seeing is we had a previous high. We are coming into resistance. I am seeing some bids hanging around these 33s right now, trying to press price down into them for the continuation higher. So kind of around this level here, you are seeing, let me see what my, I think one of my charts is, or one of my indicators is missing here. All right, there we go. All right, so there's my volume profile here on the daily session. And so what I'm seeing is we had a thin spot of volume through here. That's why we had that move. The last little chunk of volume profile was kind of around this area here, around these 2930s or so. So I'd kind of be looking for that rotation down into that level, kind of coming back down into here, back down into this big cluster of volume support. Start making some rotations vis-a-vis something like this, and then look to continue that to the upside. Trend is bullish today. You guys will see off of the open. Our pit open was right here. We just, pressed higher off of the open, held the overnight highs as support, right? And now we've just broken to new fresh highs. So similar to what I was saying with crude, what tends to happen after we break highs? Well, this thing doesn't just go straight up, right? You're often going to get a breakout of previous highs, a rotation back down into that region or so, around that region. All right, you get some more support, and then you get the highs. All right, so we're not looking to catch this breakout. We're looking to catch this pullback for the continuation to new highs. That's the lower risk, higher opportunity kind of a setup, and that's what we'll be looking for. All right, so does the pullback have to get down here for us to get long? No, not necessarily. That is the preferred method. What we have right now is obviously a little bit of structure forming. If it does pop its head above that, let's say it presses up into the 44s, 45s, then it rotates back down into these 38s, 40s, hold support. You can look to pick it up here again. So that's kind of the next best trades. Wait for a breakout, rotate, hold, and get long, or wait for the pullback, look for support, look to get long. Today's market or today's environment, you don't really want to be getting short. If you do get short, that's more of a fade trade. And yes, there have been fade opportunities, but the momentum is to the upside. And so even if you're a little bit late or you get in a bit of a sloppier fill and you're going long because the trend is to the upside, it might be a little bit more forgiving. With trying to fade a bull trend like this, you've got to have a good level and you've got to be really quick with it. Any sign of hesitation and the market moves away from you, you don't want to be chasing this thing to the downside. All right. So that is what I have for today's update. Let's see in the chat here who's in here. Chris, what's up, buddy? Joseph, good to see you in here. Craig, good afternoon. Berg's Corner, what's going on, man? And Bernard, hello, hello. It's a good little crowd in here. Today, let's show you guys the Trade Pro Performance Index, how the team did today. And then we're going to sign off. All right, and then we're going to sign off of here. So this is what the Trade Pro Performance looks like today. Numbers aren't as good as we started off the month with, but that is okay. That tends to happen. Fridays tend to be a little bit more difficult to trade, and the fact that we had such good volatility in the beginning of the week, at least for me, it almost made sense that we're going to be either consolidating or chopping around a little bit. Oops, you guys don't see that. You guys see my webcam. Here you are. Here's the Trade Pro Performance Index. So what we have on today's date, October 4th, 42.22% was up, 15.56 were flat, and 42.22% were down, giving us a live positive figure of 57.78%. All right, so as I just mentioned, not the best numbers, but still overall majority of the group was in the green once we signed off. And I anticipate those numbers kind of increased later on into the session since there has been a little bit more movement. We were trading US session, was a lot choppier. And so a lot of this movement kind of came through after we signed off, after 11 a.m., which you can see 11 a.m. basically once we started getting the move. So our team was basically trying to trade that bit of it, and the real move came in afterwards. So it is what it is. But still a positive result, still happy with our team, what the team accomplished, and we look to continue to press this thing into the remainder of October. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's what I've got for you guys for today's update. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm not seeing any questions come through in the chat, so I'm going to take it as you guys are enjoying it and I've answered all of your questions. All right, so you guys know the rules into the remaining couple of hours of today's session. If you will be trading, if you are green, I don't really recommend sticking around. Start the weekend off early and start the weekend off green. Don't try to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. All right, guys, so that's what I got for you guys, some parting words. And if you will be trading into the remainder of the session, you guys know the 3 rules: remain patient, diligent, and disciplined. All right, until Monday, everybody, you guys have a lovely weekend. I hope you guys close the week out green. We did here in the office, and I believe a majority of our team also did quite well as well. So that's what I got for you guys. A couple more questions coming through. You're doing great. I recommend to change your background. Ahmed, I appreciate the feedback, but I like my background as is, so I'll likely be keeping it. Guru, which software do we use? I use Sierra Chart software here. Will you be creating a video about pullbacks versus reversals? Craig, that's a good question. You never really know which one's which. You never really know when a pullback's gonna turn into a reversal or not. But yeah, we might be able to take a look at something like that. How to identify when a potential pullback might be turning into a reversal. But ultimately, you just kind of want to follow the trend. If it's making lower lows and lower highs, and it's getting into a level where there's previous highs, that's likely just a pullback trade. Whereas a reversal is you're looking to short as this thing's, pressing on higher. We do have a full breakdown of this in the futures course, how to identify pullbacks, how to trade reversals, etc. We like to call them fades. Fades, reversals, it's all the same thing. The main thing is to keep them short, keep them quick, get paid, not to look for crazy runners. But sometimes you get onto a fade that looks like a fade, but it turns into a reversal, and those ones can be really, really profitable. They don't happen too often, but the once or twice a month that you catch it nicely, a fade that turns into a reversal, that can really make your month. So we'll give that a ponder. We do have a team meeting today, so we'll likely be reviewing our YouTube content for the next quarter or so. So I might suggest that to the team and see what we can do from there. All right, Craig. So let me just write that down. Pullback, VS, reversals. Perfect. All right, guys. So I don't see anything else coming through chat. I hope I answered your guys' questions. And until Monday, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you then. Take care. We got 2 videos dropping this weekend. Um, None of mine, but the other guys that make the videos, they do a really good job. Georgie and Victorio. All right, so 2 videos coming out this weekend. Make sure to keep an eye out on that. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to subscribe to the page. And make sure to hit that little notification bell to get updated anytime that we do drop any new videos or anytime we do go live. These things are scheduled. We are here twice a day usually. However, once in a while, we like to be a little bit spontaneous and jump on YouTube, do Q&As and things like that. And unless you're subscribed and you've got that little notification bell checked off, you would miss out on that. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. And again, take care. I wish you all the best over the weekend. Safety, a little bit of a chance to recover and come back strong on Monday. All right, guys. You guys take care. Love you all. I'll see you then. Ciao.